He wiped his hands clean on his overalls, then marched out to greet what he assumed must have been the old lady staying at Moss Cottage. Nothing could prepare him for what he saw waiting for him outside, though. The shapely woman with brunette hair standing in front of him couldn't have been older than 30 at the most. Her amber eyes flitted back and forth skittishly between him and the surrounding trees as she waited for him to reach her. It took a lot of focus for him to remember the usual niceties city folk expected. "Derek McMillan, nice to meet you," Derek said, sticking out his hand to greet his guest. Though he tried not to stare, her feminine curves invited a closer look. Instead of acting rude, he tried to focus on her face. High cheekbones, full lips, almond-shaped kind eyes. Perfection. "Oh, Clarice, just call me Clarice." She hesitated for a moment with her arms hanging down her sides, but finally took his much larger hand anyway. It was as if an electric current passed between the two when their fingers first touched, but she barely reacted, at least not favorably. In fact, she pulled her almost fragile little hand back almost possessively after the shortest of greetings. That proved it. The attraction was definitely not mutual. "Is there anything I can help you with? Did you find the cottage to your liking?" Derek asked. Her eyes met his for a split second, but then she looked away again. Her demeanor reminded him of prey, painfully aware of the danger it was in. And her scent was more enticing, lovelier than a summer meadow in full bloom. There was something about her that he couldn't put his finger on, something tempting that made the most primal part of his being want to own her. She began, but then fell silent again. In all his years running the cottages, he'd never found himself in an awkward position like this. Sure, he'd had as many female guests as male ones over the years, but never one who affected him so. Humans didn't hold much interest for him. Not until right this moment. Neither did most of his own kind, for that matter. He had always been happily solitary, a bachelor by choice as well as circumstance. Bears didn't live in large packs like wolves did, and they favored vast territories all to themselves. That was one of the reasons his kind was dwindling. They simply didn't get the opportunity to pair up often enough. "Yes?" he asked. His reaction to her was visceral, involuntary, and completely undesirable. The longer he stood in front of her, the more difficult was it for him to suppress his instincts and remain civil. All he wanted to do was pounce, take her into his arms, and make her his. He didn't understand it, how a human could have this effect on him. Everything he felt, how the bear in him threatened to take over with every breath he took, made the hair on his forearms stand up. It felt like something he'd heard about a long time ago, but that kind of behavior was limited to bears and their mates. It didn't apply to human women, did it? Perhaps he had kept himself isolated for too long, and his instincts were rusty. For once he wished Aidan was around. Since his brother was much more well-traveled, he might have had advice for Derek, but it was up to him alone to sort out this mess. The next couple of weeks were going to be difficult, if not impossible.